And I just want to point out the weather, people. My landlords came by yesterday, dropped me off some tiles for the bathroom downstairs, and my daughter happened to be walking by, and she didn't have her wound on her leg covered up, and they couldn't believe what they had seen on her leg. It's pretty bad. So she's probably going to need skin grafts, assuming that Fraser Health Authority would be willing to spend any money on her. But just as a reminder, this is where our healthcare system wants the most vulnerable in our society to be, out in this type of weather. Currently, there are 6 people in this little house that are being protected from this cold snap that we have, right? And probably just a couple of friends, you know, just for now, just because it's so cold. And hold on a minute. Okay, so I'm just gonna do this first, and then I'm gonna upload everything that I've been doing for the last couple of days. But just make a note, people, it's like freaking snow all over out there, and it's February 14th, 2018 right now. And it's like freezing. It's been actually freezing for the last 3 days, but it snowed last night. So I just calculated some numbers here. From the day Uncle John went into the hospital, January 13th, 2015. And when he first went in, he was fine, people. He was cracking jokes, right? Just, you know, he was a little loopy, but he was cracking jokes. He knew where he was. He was well aware of what was going on, right? He knew why he was there, just in case, you know, whatever. And within a day or two, when Tisha started seeing him with her boyfriend at the time, you know, he was slurring, and you know, he was deteriorating, and he was drowsy, very drowsy, because they started drugging him right away, people. He probably started complaining about his legs seizing up on him, and they didn't want to walk him and get him out of the gurney and help him to the washroom. They gave him a fucking bedpan, because he had a bedpan in the hall with all the other people lining the hall on this one side, and on the hall of this one side, it was just gurney after gurney after gurney, right? So nobody was taking anybody to a washroom. Everybody, I'm sure, was having to use a bedpan. I know Uncle John had to use a bedpan. So to shut him up, they started giving him drugs. But of course, he told him he didn't want any, because he knew, right, what would happen to him if he started taking drugs. But they gave it to him anyway, because they told him it was just a calcium pill. You know, he needed the calcium pill, and to take the calcium pill and be quiet. And once the fucking drugs hit him, people, like I said, you know, he deteriorated from that point forward. And he just went into a real stupor, right? Because they were probably giving him too much. And then when they had him down in the emergency area for a few days, and then eventually they moved him upstairs to the 5th floor or whatever it was. And when I initially went to go visit him at the time, there was a hammock by his bed, people. The same kind of hammock that was there when I walked into Uncle John's room on February 23rd of 2015. And I seen the hammock, the tail end of the hammock on the bed with the people around him. Right? So this is how I know that they moved him in a hammock, because it was the same type of hammock that was by his bed when they moved him upstairs from the emergency area to upstairs to a different area of the hospital, because they had drugged him so much that that was the only way that they could move him, was through a hammock. So we're dealing with some very evil people here, okay? Because it's a colluded group of criminal activity that cherry picks those that have and those that have not. And the have-nots, my landlords yesterday seen exactly what the have-nots gets in this province in terms of inadequate health care. Right? And for the grace of God, at least she's not out running around in this weather. Because that's what I don't know, but I really can't speak on behalf of the NDP because they haven't been in for that long. But the thing about politics, though, is oftentimes the agenda is already pre-established years and years and years in advance. And this is why people don't believe in politicians anymore, like whether it's the NDP or the Liberal, like the Republican and the Democrat Party or whatever, like the two opposing parties, the two main opposing parties. People don't believe in them anymore because they can see that as parties change, sure, a few things change along the way, but the same old okie dokie, the same old rhetoric, the same old procedures, the same old everything just kind of continues to go along. And, like when the BC Liberal government came in, they destroyed a lot of lives, people, for years and years and years and years. And we're now still living with the ramifications of those nasty, nasty politics where, you have thousands, you have probably more than 10,000 people homeless across the province of British Columbia, Canada, sitting outside in this kind of weather today. Okay, there are at least 2,000 people that are homeless in Surrey alone. And how I know that, though, is because my daughters used to work at McDonald's, and they'd go through 2,000 people a day in terms of an 8-hour shift, and half of those people were homeless that they were serving. Every day. So when you hear these funny numbers, oh, there's only 150 homeless people up by the homeless shelter. That's all we have. It's just 150 homeless people in the city of Surrey. That's a bullshit lie. That's a bullshit lie. Right? There's more like 2,000 sitting out in the snow right now, freezing to death. So, and then, so what I'm trying to say is Uncle John went into the hospital January 13th of 2015. They purposely drugged him to keep him because they knew what they were going to do, because almost within the first few days of him arriving at the hospital, I'm sure the Duncan clan phoned up that skanky social worker and said, oh, John's sitting on a gold mine, but we can't tell him about it right now because if we do, his representative is going to take control of it and John's going to continue to live his life, and we don't want that to happen because we don't think that John should have the right to manage his own affairs because we're his brothers and sisters and we know better, even though we've never spent no time with John for years, right? Even though we've never gone to visit him, nothing. Like I said, he used to cross over the ferry to go either visit his mom for her birthday party, or he'd go visit Joan when Joan was living over there, and never once did they ever offer to pick him up at the ferry terminal. Nothing. They wouldn't drive him to the ferry terminal. They didn't do shit for him, people. But for some reason, they felt that they had the right to take over his life, destroy his brain, destroy his family, and they used the healthcare system with their corrupt employees looking to buy the next house, looking to prop up their own pension plans, looking to be able to stay in Canada and continue working in Canada versus then in Fiji or someplace like that where they pay $2 an hour, or, thinking that for somehow, some way, they're from Britain and they're so much better than everybody else because they have a British accent and they're in a position of power in Canada that they have the right to destroy innocent lives. So between the Surrey Memorial Hospital and the Yale Road Care Facility, which is both under the Fraser Health Authority regime, he was in there for 41 days. And then when he crossed over on the ferry in the hammock and he started coming out of his stupor, and he realized what was happening. They probably had to resuscitate him because they needed his signature in order to sign the paperwork so they could steal his money. So they weren't ready to have him die yet, right? Even though he was probably on the verge of death. Because within that first week, between the lawyer, he gave me a number, and my daughter, Shimei, was calling. Within that first week, he was gone. And that, I want to say the C word, Cheryl, the niece that didn't know John from Adam, right? You know, playing the, I don't know what kind, you know, the cover card, right? Because Eleanor had to hide in the background because she was a reputable nurse. So it wasn't like she could put herself in the mix and draw attention to herself. So she hid behind her daughter. So the daughter, the niece, right, is on the phone with Shimei within the first week of Uncle John being gone, within the first 5 days from the 24th to the 28th, after they illegally transported him to Victoria, was on the phone with Shimei trying to find out where Uncle John's superannuation life insurance policy was. Shimei did not record those videos, but Shimei will definitely go up on a witness stand and testify to that fact. Because that was the only thing that those people wanted to know, was where Uncle John's life insurance policy was. And they used Cheryl, somebody that John had never met in his whole fucking life, except for maybe for 5 minutes at some birthday party years ago, right, to try and get that information, because he was probably on the verge of death, people, once he realized what happened to him. And then they had him there for the whole month of March, as they were working on the paperwork, as they were figuring out how he was being ripped off by me, right? And concocting their lies and, you know, telling the staff there how they found him in terms of look how sick he was, and, you know, he couldn't walk, and it was all my fault, right? And therefore they had to protect him from me. So they put a flag. I'm telling you, this is how it happened, people. They put a little flag on he's not allowed no visitors. There's no contact with the family from the mainland, right? Because, you know, John's in jeopardy as they're all running around, you know, hacking into his bank account through his credit card after they illegally transferred his mail. And this is what Fraser Health Authority is protecting, people. This is what Fraser Health Authority is enabling to happen again and again and again. For the simple fact is, they are continuing to accuse me of abusing John just by the very type of court cases that they bring into their kangaroo court through their dismissal process, to keep that suspicion on me, as the judges and the masters play lip service to this corruption. So for the month of March, they housed him for 31 days as they figured out what they were going to do with his money and how they were taking control of his money. They were looking for his superannuation life insurance policy, as they were probably, you know, working with the lawyer that Joan Duncan had left, you know, Uncle John money, because I'm telling you, she left him something, people, right? This is, they stole, not only did they steal his life, but they stole his pension plans, they stole his family, and they stole whatever Joan left him, right? So they needed a few days, so they got their 31 days to figure that out. Finally, my kids went to the hospital not knowing whether he was going to be there or not in Victoria. The hospital that Ashley Marcaine was born at, you know, these hospitals born babies, but, you know, at the end of the day, they destroy lives. So they're not, they're Frankenstein, you know, entities that you just don't know what you're going to get. So anyway, they went on the 2nd of April. Quiet, please. They went on the 2nd of... Quiet, please. They went on the 2nd of April. So between January 13th to April 2nd, Uncle John was guaranteed to be in a hospital setting for 79 days. 79 days, people. Okay? And he wasn't transported out of there on April 2nd. He was still waiting to go home. Only by this time, after his brain had been traumatized so much and destroyed with the drugs that they were giving him. His definition of home was going to some place he had never been. He had never, ever been to Shawnigan Lake in his whole life, people. He didn't know Cheryl. He knew Cheryl by talking about Cheryl, because Cheryl was Eleanor's daughter. But outside of that, he did not know Cheryl. And he sure in the hell didn't know Eleanor's husband, who obviously is an abusive person. Right? Because when money is involved, people, when money is involved, this is what some people resort to. That's why we have the Criminal Code of Canada, to protect people from people like Eleanor, her husband, and her daughter. And these workers within the healthcare system on their own agendas. Right? Did Eleanor offer to pay them $5,000 each under the table to do what they did as a bonus? Or did she threaten them to say, well, if you don't do this, I'll make sure you get fired and you can go back to the country that you came from? You'll get a citation? Or did she say, if you do this for me, I'll make sure I'll put a good word in for you and you'll get a promotion? Obviously, she was running the show, even though she works with the Victoria Island Health Authority. But because she was a manager of an immunization program for the province of British Columbia, Canada, and she's a senior union staff member, right? She got away with it. Well, Fraser Health Authority and their fucked up lawyers want to sit up there and protect this shit. So anyway, he was housed for 79 days that I know of. And then when they released him into the loving hands of his ugly sister, he ended up getting injured. He was sick for months. And he lost all his memory by the time I caught up to him and called him in July 13th or whatever it was of 2015. And I got to speak to him for a total of 1 minute before the phone was taken away from him, people, by that abusive man that Eleanor wants to consider her husband, who impersonated Uncle John on the ferry to hack into his credit card. This is what Fraser Health Authority is protecting. So, if they can house Uncle John for 79 days plus and do all these things that they've been doing with him, I don't know why they couldn't have given my daughter an operation. I don't know why my daughter's running around with a big fucking hole that's all black around it and everything after weeks of going back and forth to the hospital. How come they haven't housed her for not even a month to do the things that they needed to do for her? Because there's no money to steal from her, people. It's more profitable for her to be homeless and abused out in the streets. Right? That's how Fraser Health Authority makes their money off of my daughter. As they continue to do that to thousands and thousands and thousands of people across this province, regardless of the weather. They don't give a shit. They didn't care about Uncle John any more than they care about my daughter. The only difference between Uncle John and my daughter is Uncle John had money to steal. And they damn well made it so that he couldn't fight back. They used drugs against his person so he couldn't fight back. They completely separated him from a family that he loved and he had been with for over 25, 35 years, lived with them in the house for 23. They completely severed him away from that so that he had nobody to protect him. Right? They isolated him out in the country so that there was nobody there to protect him. And then they turned around and they tucked him into some old folks' home up along the Sunshine Coast so that nobody is there to protect him. And now they're sending their dirty fucking lawyer after me to try and protect what they've done. So, needless to say, people, I'm really, really depressed. You can't imagine how depressed I am. It's one thing knowing this. It's another thing having to go through it and actually be the character in the story. Or characters, because we're dealing with vulnerable children that have to live with this knowledge for the rest of their lives. You know, my adult children that have to live with this knowledge for the rest of their lives. Live with the memories of Uncle John being in the house and then all of a sudden disappear, and then have to live with the knowledge of knowing how and why he disappeared and what's happened since then in terms of the professional people covering up their nasty, dirty freaking crimes. Look, I'm disgusted. I am so disgusted. He was in there for 79 days just so they could steal his money. My daughter needs an emergency operation. She needs her leg dealt with correctly, and they don't even want to house her for a freaking day. That just shows you how sick these people are, and these are the ones that are giving you health care. These are the ones that give you health care, people. So I'm going to contact the unions. I don't know what union runs the healthcare system. Let's see. Let's Google it right now. BC Healthcare System Union. Collective Agreements. Health Employees Association of BC. Maybe that should be my next lawsuit. There is the joke of the year. This is the Health Employees Union. Look at that. If that's not hypocrisy staring you in the face, I don't know what is. Okay, people. So I'm kind of in my favorite spot in life here. So today is what, Sunday? I'm pretty sure it's Sunday. February 11th, 2018. I got this other video. The landlord is amazing. You know, he's saving lives. It's uploading right now. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through my day here in terms of how I cope with the stress, right? As things are moving along. And obviously being in the kitchen is one of them. So, because I have that meat from 2013, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 roasting pans ready, one for my family and one for the house, because my daughter went to the food bank and she gave me these. So that's 1 pan, 2 pan, right? So that works out pretty good for me. And then, you know, because people at the house are having to adjust, right? And sometimes when you're under a lot of stress, a little bit of comfort food always helps. So, and I want to make some beef jerky. That piece of meat is fairly big, so I should be able to get a couple of small roasts. And then I want to try it and make some beef jerky with some of it as well. My son has already taken about 1 inch thick and fried himself up a steak with it, so. And then I'm going to make some pea soup for my grandson, because for as picky as he is, he likes pea soup. So I'm going to make just a small little batch of pea soup, and then I'm just going to see what's going on from there. I really should be outside, you know, working in the yard. It's still kind of chilly, so I'm going to take that and just kind of keep myself in the house and just work on this. So I'll be back. Hold on. Okay, so this is where I'm at. Some white onion, celery with some of the leaf, some Himalayan salt, just a few pinches of fennel. There's our peas, a little bit of dill, weed, a little bit of dill seed. Here's some chicken stock or something from back in the day. And then I'm putting it in this nifty little cooker. Probably add some more water. Start cooking. But before I do the peas, I cook all this other stuff first, then I add in the peas. Hold on. See? Okay, so bypassing my panic attacks here, feeling guilty that I'm not working on Uncle John's paperwork, people. I am going to, first time ever, create myself some sourdough starter. Not sure which one. Maybe I'll try two. Normally my house is kind of cold, right? But I don't know. Maybe I'll have to, because you have, when it's going, starting, it has to be 85 degrees and up. That's fairly warm. So I'm going to have to depend on my oven for a little while. I do have a convection oven that I might use, so I'm not sure yet. But anyway, this is something that I want to do. Hold on. Okay, so moving along. I think I'm going to try 3 different types. I'm going to try the basic sourdough starter, the quick overnight sourdough starter, and a potato starter. Because I made supper last night with potatoes and sweet potato in it. Pretty sure it was a sweet potato. It was either that or a yam. Anyway, I saved the liquid. You can see there's a little bit there. So I'm going to top it off with some boiled water, and I'm going to use that as one starter. These are the 3 containers I'm going to use, right? This one will probably be for the potato starter, because I think it requires less liquid and less flour. And then this one, and this one, which I'm going to use a cheesecloth to cover it, which, as these are just fermenting, I will probably use a cheesecloth with those. And I'm boiling water, you can see. And because when you start, sorry for whipping the camera around, because when you start, you want this extremely clean so it doesn't pick up the bad bacteria and spoil as it's fermenting. So I'm just going to take some of that boiled water and whoosh it around just to try and disinfect these before I start using them. And versus using chlorinated water with my starter, I'm just boiling it off a little bit, the chlorine, right? And then I'll be using boiled water for my starter. And then this here, people, is honey from El Salvador. Can you believe that? That's from all the way, it was a gift to me from El Salvador. And then here's something interesting. Have you ever heard of 99% vinegar? Well, that's what that is, people. That's 99% vinegar. I'm telling you, you open this up and you start crying. That's how strong it is. This was from my neighbor when my neighbors were moving out. I actually have 2 or 3 more full bottles. Unfortunately, a whole bunch went to waste, but I caught it just in time to salvage some. He used to use it in his restaurant when he was cooking. He said you just put a little bit in your soup as you go along the way. So anyway, hold on. Okay, so far today the feature is sourdough starter in the modern day kitchen. In the old days, they never used to use yeast. I'm just trying to move this camera back. In the old days, they never used to use yeast, but in a modern kitchen, you can actually use yeast. So I bought some fresh yeast for this purpose, because I've been meaning to do this for quite a while now. My son actually last year came home from work, because he's a lumberjack, right? He cuts down trees. He climbs up 200 feet high, and he swings in the balance of gravity as he's chopping off the limbs, because when you start chopping off the limbs at the very peaks of these trees, apparently they start to sway within the law of gravity 200 feet up. So anyway, he ended up coming home with some, this starter that was like over 50 years old, only we didn't really know what to do with it. So he stuck it in the fridge, and, you know, I'm busy, you know, I was out in the yard, city was, you know, doing what the city was doing in those days. And so, anyway, I went down there one day after the fact, months later, and I cleaned out the fridge, and I came across this little container, and unfortunately I threw it out. But if you're not going to use it for any length of time, technically you're supposed to freeze it. It can freeze up to 3 months, and then you can bring it out and, you know, have it unthaw, and you can bring it back to life. You don't have to use yeast to create a sourdough starter. Back in the pioneer days, they just used straight up water and flour, and then as it's fermenting, it draws the yeast in from the air. But in this case, we're just going to use good old yeast. And I'm on just the basic sourdough starter right now, and I'm experimenting. I turned on my convection oven and it got too hot. I had it on dehydrate and it actually got too hot. So I don't know how I'm going to keep these warm at 85 degrees. That's like in tropical weather, right? It's not like I got a cold stove, like a wood stove running all day long, or, you know, you can put it in your oven with a tray of water underneath it to help keep it warm, but I kind of want to clean my oven before I really do that, because, you know, I was doing the black walnut husk in it, right? So, and it's 1 tablespoon, so it actually takes more than a package for the basic sourdough starter. So I'll probably just end up putting a tray at the bottom of the convection oven. I'm going to try different methods. So that's just basically 2 cups flour, 1 teaspoon salt, 3 tablespoons sugar, 1 tablespoon dry yeast. You mix that around with your wooden spoon. Try and avoid metal containers. You want to make your sourdough starter in either glass, crock pot, or plastic. In this case, I'm just trying these things for now. They have lids on them, but because after you do it, you can put it in the fridge and you can store it in the fridge. But you still have to have a hole in the lid in order for gases to escape. So I don't know. Like I said, we're figuring this out. So I'm doing it this way first, and then you add in lukewarm water and you stir it around, and then you put your cover on it. In this case, I'm going to use cheesecloth. Hold on. Okay, so this is where I'm at for this quick overnight sourdough. It's 2 packs of yeast, and you're supposed to dissolve it, which you can see what I've done here with some of the water. It's 4 cups of water. I put a half a cup in here to dissolve the yeast, 2 packs of yeast, 1 pack of yeast with a tablespoon, which equals about 2 packs, a little over 2 packs, and that's just the basic sourdough. So hold on, then. As you can see, it's already too much. But that's okay. We're just going to continue with working with what we have right here for now. That's the 4 cups of water with, well, 3.5 cups of water to 4 cups of flour. And then we're going to take this, which is a half a cup of water. So it equals a total of 4 cups, 4 to 4, right? And we're going to put it in there, and then we're going to stir it around. And then what I'm probably going to do, people, is take out some and put it in another bowl. Hold on a minute. Okay, as you can see, I'm already having a problem. That's the basic. It's already starting to rise, people. Do you see that? You're supposed to stir it a few times a day, right? So I don't know. I'm going to have to either get another container and put it in another container, or break it in half and half. So anyway, there's that one, which is going to rise. This is leftover, so I'm going to probably put this one in a crock pot, right? I have to see how much they rise, right? This is the going to be the potato one. There's salt, like a tablespoon of salt in this one, a tablespoon of sugar, 1 pack of yeast, and what was it in terms of flour? I don't remember it already. 1 3/4 cup flour, and then it's 2.5 cups potato water. I don't have 2.5 cups of potato water, but I did have almost 3/4 of a cup of what I had from last night. I just topped it off with my water there, so I'm going to put that in there. That's actually kind of cool, but whatever, we'll just put it in there now. And then we're going to take some of this other water, which is warm, and then we're going to put it in there and stir it up, and then I'm going to have to go look for some crock pots, as you can see, right? And then what I'll probably end up doing, people, because I have so much, I'm going to see if I can, I still need another half a cup in there. I'm going to see, which you can tell right now, that this is not a big enough container, right? Because it's rising. So I got more than one crock pot around the house. I just have to find them, right? And after everything's done, see, I don't know if you're supposed to strain out the little bits of potato or what, but anyway, I am going to see if I can make sourdough flapjacks, cook them, and then freeze them to see if something like that you could put in a toaster, because obviously I have too much, right? So, hold on a minute. Okay, this stuff is like going like crazy. It hasn't even been 5 minutes. Look at it. So anyway, I got this crock pot. I have another one like this, only is blue. I'm not too sure where it was, where I put it, because I pulled them out to do this, right? And then, you know, got busy, right? So anyway, I think it's in Uncle John's room. So I'm going to put this in here. And then I'm going to quickly run off into Uncle John's room so that we don't have this all over the edge. Hold on. Seriously, that's how fast this stuff is rising. I'm standing here, and do you see it? Do you see it rising as I'm talking? Like in one more minute, it's going to start overflowing. Okay, so this is where we're at. This is the quick one, right? 4 cups. That's why there's so much of it. It's ready in 6 hours, so it's like, we'll say 1 o'clock now. So, you know, it's, well, 12:30. So this will be ready to use by 6:30 tonight. Now, whether I use it or not, I don't know yet. We'll see, because I'm already getting tired, people, and I still have to do the meat and whatnot, right? But every couple of hours or whatever it is, you stir it down, because it rises pretty fast, right? And then I've got this lid for it. You gotta let it breathe a little bit, so just, you know, put it on an angle. This doesn't, it kind of fits, but in this case, you know, I'd go like that, just let it breathe. This is the one that's ready in 2 or 3 days from now. What is it, 2 or 3 or 3 or 4? 2 or 3 days. This one will be ready in 2 or 3 days. And again, you stir it down, right? This is the one with the potato in it. It's not moving as fast. Now, mind you, the liquid was not very warm. So, obviously, when it starts rising, this bowl is not going to be big enough. So I'm going to find a different container for it, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring it over here and warm it up a bit. These ones are still kind of warm. I can feel them, right? Maybe not so much that one. Again, they like 85 degrees, and, you know, my house is cold, so I don't know how this is going to work. I could put it in the oven with a light on. That's what you do, just with a light, and the light brings up the oven temperature, right? So hold on. Okay, so I just changed it to a different bowl, and I ran the bowl under the, what do you call it? Hot water tap for a bit. So it technically isn't, well, the bowl is warmer now, right? So I think I might stick this one in the convection oven, if the convection oven is not too hot, just to warm it up a bit, because when I was doing it, the water wasn't as warm as it should have been. So anyway, I'm just going to take a string now and just make that taunt for now. Hold on. Okay, so anyway, it's in my oven for now. The one with the potato, you leave it for 1 to 2 days until it starts to get bubbly. So you don't really do anything with it, because it has a lot more liquid in it, right? The other ones, you can see the oven is not that warm, but I keep opening and closing it, so we'll just leave the light on and see what happens. Hold on. Okay, people, this is ridiculous. Like, seriously, do you see that thing? That one right there? It's already overflowing. Hold on. Okay, this is starting to get nerve-wracking. Like, serious. This is not big enough. This is the big one. The overnight one. The one that I can cook with tonight. Or the one that's ready within 6 hours. They weren't kidding. So anyway, I have other larger crock pots around. I have to just dig them out. Figure out a system here. Alright. And I'll put that back in there. And then that one was not as much. Hold on. Okay, people, this is ridiculous. Do you see that? Look at that. Oh my. Okay, people, so this is where we're at. So initially, when you start it, obviously it rises, and then after it stops rising, it does this. Alright. Smells like yeast. Kind of like a bit of a bakery now. You're supposed to stir it a couple times a day. There's that one. And then, I don't know. This is the one with the potato in it. So, and then I've got the other one in the convection oven. I'll show you in a minute. So I don't know. I don't know if I killed the yeast or what this stuff is supposed to be doing. It's pretty runny. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be or not. It smells good. And then I'm going to put the lids. Right, and then I got this. You can see, hold on. And then I've got this one in here. And it's a convection oven. I got it down to this temperature, so it's kind of warm in there. Right? Like a warm house. Hold on. Okay, I would say that one didn't work. You get all crusty in there. Because of the air, that's why. Underneath it's okay. Kind of smells like cooked bread now. I don't know. First time doing this, people. See, this one's thicker. So, I don't think the convection oven is the right thing to use. So, I will put this in the oven instead. Hold on. Okay, people, so today is February 12th, 2018. 50% off. This is about $14 worth of wild snapper fillets, which is pretty good for me, because that's the kind you want for like fish and chips, right? Andre's picky, but maybe he'll eat this when I make it. So anyway, I'm taking these out of the package and I'm going to vacuum seal it, right? Just because it does better that way. Hold on. Okay, so not bad for 14 versus 28, right? That's at least 3 mils, and I have enough to make extra for my other kids, right? Okay, people. I spent a total of like, oh, I don't know, maybe $46 or something out of $100. And like, serious people, I'm like having a serious panic attack. Obviously, I went into Safeway and picked up some discounted fish and some discounted pork here, which I'm going to vacuum seal too. And I'm going to make this, what I really like with the carrots, with this preserved cabbage, garlic, and salt, right? It's a Chinese dish, right? I've made it before on YouTube, right? But like, you know, like this is $6.30, which is, you know, multiplied by, well, it's like $2 off, you can see. So it's almost 50% off, right? Minus another 30 cents more. Hold on a minute. Okay, so as Uncle John would say, it's like the good old days. This is pennies on the dollar, people. This it was a total of what, $6, right? And 30 cents. Well, here's this one here for $2.10, which I'm going to cook up. And so $2 from 6, so here's $4. So that works out to like what, $1.33 per bag or something. 1, 2, 3, yeah, $1.33. $1.33 for 3 meals each, like $1.33 each. That's not bad, people. That's not bad. That's like the good old days. Okay, so here's my $2.10 worth of pork. So I'm going to mix in about a tablespoon or more of this. You rinse it off first, and then you put it in there. And then a tablespoon or so of sesame seed oil. Again, I don't have the recipe in front of me. And I don't know, a teaspoon or a tablespoon of that. Some sugar. You need to put some sugar in there, because it's really good, people. And then, of course, my dollar store, right? Like I said, I spent about $46 worth of groceries out of $100 that I had. That technically should have went $50 on the Visa, but I already gave them $300, and I'll be giving them another $300 very soon. And I'm telling you, people, I'm in debt slavery. That's what Fraser Health Authority did to my family. Just put us in a perpetual treadmill of nothing. So anyway, I'm going to cook this up. Hold on a minute. So you don't need very much of this stuff, right? Just about that much. But before you use it, it's best to rinse it off, because it's very, very salty. It's preserved in salt. And it's a cabbage, right? And, so yeah, it's about a tablespoon, right, of sugar. I put in there. I put a cap and a half of the soy sauce. Now I'm going to do 1 to 2 of these of sesame seed oil. I'll rinse that off, put that in there, and then maybe a half a teaspoon of salt or something, and then I'll show you. Hold on. Okay, so there it is. That's what you do, and then you put a little bit of water in it. The carrot thing is my idea. I like it. It makes the meat taste really, really good. And then you put a little bit of water in it after you put your meat in the middle, right? And then you put your lid on and you bring it, up, and then you turn it down and you simmer it. And if you notice, people, I only used $1 worth of meat. So this whole dish right here, which is extremely delicious, cost no more than $1.25. $1.25. That's $1. Now that's 75 cents, because I took out some carrots. So can you see that? $1.25, like the good old days. Okay, so here is that sourdough starter. This is the one with the potato juice in it, with a little bit of, I don't know, I think it was yam. And the one that was in the convection oven I threw out because it smelled really like, I don't know, like it was going more into an alcohol state, right? Didn't smell like dough, like a yeast of any kind. It smelled more like alcohol. So I didn't want to chance it. So I just threw that out. So anyway, there's this one here. I don't know. Because it has the potato juice and stuff in it, I think I'm just going to stick it in the fridge now as is. And then this other one, which was the quick one, it's still kind of in the oven, so hold on. Okay, people. So, February 13th, 2018. $8 worth of apples in terms of discount apples. So, I'm making apple juice. Andre really likes it. He's drinking it all the time. And then I'm going to do the apple crisp again. Hold on. Okay, so it's February 14th, 2018. I threw one of these out. The one that I didn't like the way it was smelling was probably just the alcohol building up in it. But besides that point, this was the quick one. It's done. This is the one with the potato in it. So, when you're ready to use it, you just stir it in, right? What you want is you don't want it to be an orange or a pink. If it goes that color, it's no good. If it's more like a yellow, it's perfectly fine. Okay, so you can see. So there's my sourdough starters. Right now I just have them in the fridge because I don't have time to be making bread. And there's some apple juice. I still have enough apples for one more tray. You can see right there. These will be for an apple crisp of some kind, or an apple bar with the oatmeal and whatnot. Hold on a minute.